Good evening, snipers. Welcome to Sniper Sunday. I hope you're all well and had a great weekend. It is Sunday, the 19th of January. As I said, hope you're all well, had a great weekend, and ready for the new week. So, good couple of weeks so far. Not the biggest weeks, been fairly quiet the last couple of weeks. Quite fundamental week last week. So, the market sort of eased its way back in January. We've had some nice trades. We had 3 out of 3 trades last week. And we had, I think it was 2 out of 3 the week before, with one being stopped out with the news that happened. But in general, it's been a good couple of weeks. So looks to be good next week as well. I want to start off with the fundamentals. There's a few things to talk about the fundamentals now. I'm coming into the new week. So I'm going to start with the fundamental calendar first. So currently there is a meeting with world leaders. There's a peace talk happening in Berlin at the moment on Sunday. I'm surprised it doesn't actually show this here, but I'll come back to that in a minute. Monday is a quiet day fundamentally. It's a bank holiday in the US, so they've got the day off. Tuesday then we've got the Bank of Japan outlook report, monetary policy statement, which is going to be important for the Japanese yen on Tuesday. And then we've got not a lot of other high impact news on Tuesday. Wednesday then, not too much. Canadian dollar mainly on Wednesday, 1:30, 3 o'clock and 4:15. So CAD is the pair to look out for on Wednesday. Thursday is the Australian dollar. Big news, unemployment rate. Euro news and some New Zealand dollar news. So Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar towards the end of the week. And then Friday, we've got lots of Euro news coming from France, Germany, and just flash services PMI coming from the different regions there. France and Germany. Then we've got the ECB talking, and then we have some pound news as well. Manufacturing, quite important for pound. And then Canadian retail sales, which is important, as we saw how the pound retail sales made a move early in the week for the pound last week. So retail sales always important to understand how the economy is doing. So that is for the week. Now, there's something that's been happening over the weekend to do with oil. I'm not sure if you've heard about it or not. I'm just going to touch on it slightly now. You can have a look into this. This is Bloomberg. But there has been some ongoings. As I mentioned, there's in Berlin at the moment, there's a peace talk happening at the moment. Now, while this has been happening, what's kind of overshadowed that is in Libya, the biggest oil field has halted production of oil, or cut back on the oil being produced. So they've cut back on the equivalent of, I think it shows on this one, on the equivalent of 800,000 barrels per day. So there's a lot to this, there's a lot to explain, so you can have a look through here. So this is on Bloomberg at the moment, and was released today. And the country's oil production will be limited to 72,000 barrels per day. And there's lots going on here. So basically, guys, with oil, let me just go to our oil chart. With oil, it's a very supply and demand driven commodity. So basically, supply and demand is the more demand there is for something, the more the cost will go up. So if there's a big demand for something, as always, it will go up. But with supply and demand, the more of something there is, if you can imagine, there's 1 million barrels of oil, just as an example. Let's just say there's 1 million barrels of oil, then the price can be, say, at $60. Now, if there's only 500,000 barrels of oil, there's only half of the amount of oil, so the demand is higher, so therefore the cost of it goes up, and so then therefore oil would raise above $60. Now at the moment, that's just a complete example. Now at the moment, what we've got is before the weekend, we were long on oil. Before the weekend, obviously the output of oil at the time compared to what is being put out now, and we've seen that there's going to be cuts on oil, means that there's less oil out there, or less oil being produced. Now we have to see whether this is going to take an effect on the market when it opens, but there is a good chance that we're going to see a rise on oil when the market opens and push up. This is something similar that happened to us quite some time ago. We were in a long trade from around these areas down here, and then when the market opened, we spiked up to these levels and hit a thousand pips. Or we were already a couple of hundred pips up, but then we hit 1,000 pips because there was the news when the oil field in Iran got blown up, and anything like that, any sort of worry on the amount of supply that there may be, the price will shoot up. So it's gonna be very, very interesting here. We may be in for a very nice surprise on oil, on market open. So we got last week, as we know, we took that long trade on oil. From here, we had point 1, point 1, point 2, point 3. We had this really nice sort of rejection, doji candle, pin bar rejection, daily bullish engulfing where we caught this from the bottom, and then we had a second day of a bit of a doji candle. But we wanted to see this push up higher. Now, should we see further, if this is all is correct, which I believe it is, and the Libya is cutting the production of oil by 800,000 barrels per day, there is a very, very good chance we're going to see a push up on oil on market open. How big or how small that may be is hard to tell, but keep your eyes on oil on market open. We could see this have a really nice push up to the upside, guys. This is on a daily chart. 4 hour, let's just have a look at this. This was really nice where we caught this last week. Really, really nice catch on this at the 58.10-ish or 12 cents level. Had a nice push up, held this strong. Explained last week that if we could break above this sort of $59 per barrel level, I think we could take off. Or this sort of region here, as you can see, if I just zoom out on the 4 hour, and just you can see here we made a low, made support here, broke through, retested as resistance. So you can see support, broke through, retested resistance, starting to break through. Looked like we were might push back down a little bit more, but we finished off strong on the 4 hour on Friday. Now just keeping an eye on this one. This may have formed a pullback here to the 50% retracement level. It may now push up, but we have, with this news, we could see a really nice push up and break above this resistance. If we can come up and break above this sort of 59 region, so this sort of whole region here, which is a little bit choppy, if we can break up above these levels and have a nice strong close, we could see a really, really nice push up on US oil over the next week. This could turn into a very, very profitable trade. So at the moment, as I said, we've hit that third touch of the trend line. We've got this Fibonacci. We know that price needs to make a retracement. I explained that long term, I've been looking for oil to make a bounce from here. This is why we've been looking for the long, and then to come back up and make a retracement back up to these levels, and then from there we may be looking at a even longer term short trade. Now at the moment, with the news and with the way the technicals are looking out, we're in a really, really nice long trade, and it does look like we could make a really nice push up to this 38, 50 or 61%. Now at the moment we're trading around just under the $59 region. We are looking at $61, $62 possibly. So obviously that's another 200-300 pips on top of what we already have. So we could have a potential very, very, very nice trade on here. Let's just have a look at where we're around these levels here. So should we be able to push up here, we'll have a really nice risk reward. So we'll keep an eye on that one, guys. But yeah, oil is one to look out for on the back of this news. Have a look on it, have a search, look into the news. So this is on Bloomberg, so you can have a look at that. As I said, there's lots of news coming out about oil at the moment. Cutting production, so this should increase the price of oil on market open. So going to go back to our and work through our forex pairs. So Euro USD. So this pair, we called a short from here originally 2 weeks ago. Had that short trade down. Then we had a nice long trade back up. Took 1.5% profit. Thought this may come back up, and ideally wanted to reach this level here in order to take the new short trade. I always expected this to come down. Analysis has been on point. We took the short trade from here down to here. Then we took the long trade. When we reached the highs here, we took 1.5%, 50% of our trade, closing out 1.5% profit. And the reason I only closed out 50% is because it did look like we could come up and tap these levels. But unfortunately, the bears stepped in a bit sooner than anticipated, and we've broken down through this inner daily trend line, and we're now broken through the outer and making our way out to the long term. So Big bearish day on Euro USD. However, what I'm going to be looking out for now on market open or on next week is I do think that this pair is going down lower. But however, we are coming into this sort of double bottom region here. So I am expecting to see some support. So what we're looking for is a support, come back and hit this back of this trend line, possibly have resistance here. We may see a nice short trade down. I'm looking at this pair coming down to tap this out at trend line and possibly come even back down to break that down to this 110. I have mentioned on the first Sniper Sundays of the year where we went into huge detail on what we were looking at over the next couple of weeks or month or so, is I'm looking at this pair either tapping this outer trend line for the third touch or breaking that, looking like we're breaking the trend, but in fact just coming down and making an equal higher low, as you can see, higher high, higher low, coming down, testing this sort of support region, and then having a big push up to the upside. So that's what we're watching out for. So short term, I do see this pair pushing down. I'm going to be looking at taking a short on the pullback. So looking for this to pull back, and we'll be monitoring that pullback for any more weakness to have a short trade down. It does look like the bears are fully in control at the moment. You can see here we had A, B, C, and then we hit that D retracement. Then on the retracement back up, where we took the long trade, we actually had A. We had A here, B here, C retracement, and D. But we tapped. That's where we took profit. And then we can see here. Remember, this was A, this was B, this was C, and then we tapped D. So then on this movement, C becomes a new A. So where this was the C retracement, that becomes the new A, and then the D becomes the B retracement. So A, B, C, tap that nicely, and now we're coming back down, and we look like we're going to come down and tap this D level down here. However, as I said, we are coming back to that support, so I'm expecting a little bounce up. We see a bounce up and a push up to the upside. I'll be monitoring price to look at see if we can step in and bring this back down and take that short trade down. Euro GBP, you can see quite messy here. I just had a few drawings on here to remind me as we're going over quite a few pairs. So what I'm looking at here, if we just zoom out here on Euro GBP, is quite clearly we've had 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, the third touch of that trend line. We've had a rejection of that trend line. We're pushing down. I have been expecting this to try and push down a little bit lower to have an overall retracement, but it's been a bit choppy over the past week. Sort of just moving within this region, bearish signs, then bullish signs. So it's been a bit choppy. We drop down to the 4 hour as well here. You can see that trend line I had on. We're just breaking this trend line. So it looks like we could break this and push down lower. And we're going to get rid of this one as well. Obviously, we're making higher highs, higher lows. We had a double top here. We had that double top. And in order for this to see this continue pushing up higher, what we need to see is, as we're in an uptrend, what we need to see is price sort of try and break out of this counter trend line here. We can break above here, then it'll show, you can see here we sort of had a retracement, pushed up, made a double top. We've had a pullback, a retracement. If we can break above this strongly, then I think we can see this push on. But at the moment, I still see this pushing back down. Reason being is we've got this double top, but if you just take a little bit of a look, a zoom out on the 4 hour, and just have a look using the rectangular tool, you can see we are in a range here. See how the rectangular tool actually just makes it really clear. Resistance, support, support, resistance up here, support, 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 resistance, coming back down. It looks like we're going to come down and retest this support. From here, we may dip a little bit lower, retest these support levels, or maybe even come down to that 0.8400 level, which I've been talking about for quite some time. Because it lines up really nicely with the Fibonacci, we just throw a Fibonacci on here from A up to B, where B here, where we've had this double top. Just adjust that slightly. We could come down, see that 61.8% sits so nicely on that support that I would really like to see this continue this push down into this sort of level and then a push up from here. So I do expect some more downside on Euro GBP. We are seeing a bit of weakness on pound at the end of the week last week, pushing this back up once more. But while we're trading within this sort of range, I'm not really interested in it just yet. If this breaks out this range and pushes to the downside, we'll be waiting patiently to take that. NZD is a pair that has been a bit choppy over the past couple of weeks. As I keep mentioning, we do have this really nice short trade from the very, very top. We've been following this all the way down. It looks like we may be starting to turn the tide here and start to push up. So we're starting to see a push up from here. And on the daily here, we can see, yeah, it's very, very choppy at the moment, guys. So what we can see here is it looks like we're starting to turn. We've bottomed out slightly. We've had a consolidation zone on the daily, which we'll zoom in on in a minute. Started to push up, but we've really been struggling to break this area, which I've sort of highlighted the last few weeks. So we're coming up to this daily support level. Support, broke through, retested resistance, then we came down and we had this little consolidation zone here before the change. And ever since then, we broke up. We were waiting for the price to come back into sort of this range. We came back, just tapped the top of it, didn't get an entry on this just yet. But see here how we had this consolidation zone on the daily, broke out strongly, came back, tap, and then pushed up. But we're failing to sort of get going and push away from here. And this is due to the New Zealand dollar being quite choppy as well. At the moment, again, we've made a high, higher low, higher high, coming back down and making a higher low and resting on this sort of daily trend line, which I'll get to in the 4 hour, make it a little bit more clearer. You can just see, I'll just bring that into a line to make it a little bit more clearer. Yeah, we're resting on this counter trend line here at the moment. 0.1, 0.2, 0.1 here, 0.2, and then 0.3. At the moment, we're on that 0.3, and we're just sitting there and we're just resting on it at the moment. Price is sort of just playing around. It's not giving us too much of an insight as to what it wants to do. It's looking weak at the moment. We're having a little consolidation zone around here. I'm going to be watching this week. I think that we could possibly drop down a little bit more into this sort of region once more, and then have a push off to the upside. I'd like to just see this come back down because of the choppiness. I'd like to see this come back down or even tap this 61.8% retracement level. Tap this level once more and just confirm that this sort of region is going to hold as a support. You can see here we've broken out, made a higher low. So this is an important level, this level here, because price can come as far as here and still be in an uptrend. So as long as price stays above that, we can still call this an uptrend. But price is just clinging on here to this trend line. The bears seem to be on euro, on a few pairs seem to be in control. You can see this just dipping down a little bit more, and from this level here is where we may be looking for that sniper trade next week. Euro JPY, this was a pair, Japanese yen pairs we were looking at all last week. We took the Aussie dollar Japanese yen pair, which I'm going to cover in a minute. But here we can see Euro JPY. Really nice push down at the end of the day on the Japanese yen pairs. Here we can see that double top that we were looking at last week. As explained, when price fell to break lower here and pushed up, I explained that I was watching for price to push up into this region and then see a rejection from there. We did push up. However, I was looking across a few pairs. I did think that this might be able to push up that little bit more, but we did have really nice rejections here. And then looking at it now, this 4 hour bearish engulfing was a really nice place to enter. Had this sort of evening star formation, 1, 2, 3. And just zoom in so you can understand that and see it. But this 1, 2, 3. But we did have a Aussie dollar Japanese yen trade. So while I was looking at the other Japanese yen trades as well, it was a Friday afternoon. We're in one Japanese yen trade, so we don't want to over leverage and overexpose ourselves. Now, what I do see happening is, like always, never try and jump on a moving train like this or jump on the bandwagon. We are breaking support here. What I can see from these Japanese yen pairs is to continue this little push down at the beginning of the week, and then I can see this pulling back up into these regions. We've had one drive, we've had two drive, a third rejection or push up into this level would be very, very nice, and then we could see a really big, strong second wave of short selling coming in. So I'm going to be looking for sort of that play coming into this week. Euro Canadian dollar. Quite a choppy one, this one. I'm going to zoom in on the 4 hour on this, actually. Been quite choppy. 4 hour, I sort of got this triangle formation, as you can see here. Support. We've got this trend line support coming across the bottom. We tried to break up higher this week, as you can see here. We broke up, one drive, two drive, came down, tweezer tops, brought us back down. Then we had that third rejection, and then we pushed back down again. This head and shoulders, left shoulder, head, right shoulder, and pushed back down. Now, however, the reason I'm interested in this is this area, this whole area is a very, very, very strong daily support region. And if we come into that level and find support once again, you may be looking at a nice long trade. As you can see here, should we break this level, there's not much support underneath this weekly level. There's this huge sort of vast gap here to break down to. Now, I think that that EuroCAD will find some support at this level. You can see here, every time it's touched this, it's had a huge rejection. We pushed up here, we're pulling back now. So now it's interesting. Now I'm going to be watching this to see how we react around this level. We'll just drop down to that 4 hour. You can see that we're extended on this pullback. You can see here, we've had a push up. We've come back down to the 78.6% retracement level. I'm not looking for a trade just yet, guys, but what I'm just highlighting is we are in a very, very, very strong sort of level of daily support. If we can come back down and continue to find some signs next week, it's something that we should look out for. We may be able to see a really nice trade from these levels. Canadian dollar, I said I've been looking at some weakness on Canadian dollar. It's been a bit choppy the last few weeks. We've got Canadian dollar on Wednesday, so I'm going to be news on Wednesday. So I'm going to be watching at how price reacts before Wednesday. So keep an eye out on Canadian dollar pairs and how it behaves before Wednesday. So pound pairs now, guys. GBP USD. So I've explained that I was looking for a push up on all GBP pairs last week before a sell-off. We did in fact get that push up. We were down around these levels 1, 2, 3, 4 days ago. We had the push up, and I was expecting to come up a bit higher, but the bears have just stepped in all of a sudden here really and pulled this down on Friday. We had bad retail sales on Friday. So like I mentioned at the start with how retail sales are important, this was on the Monday. We had a push up. I was expecting some weak news, but not that weak. But I was expecting maybe with the news to just push up that little bit higher, bring in some long buyers, sorry. And then I was looking at us taking a short trade. However, the news was very, very bad, retail sales, and we pushed all the way back down. However, still, I'm thinking that it's not time for this to roll over just yet. We can see here with this trend line that I've got support, 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 about to hit support once again. Also, if we take the trend line from here, from down here, daily trend line, you can see we're about to come in contact with the daily trend line once again. If I get rid of this one, you can see here. So we've got a strong daily area of support here, as you see with this trend line that was coming across here. There's various sort of trend line supports. There's a monthly support of 130 that we've got a breakthrough. So I think the price is going to come down here and maybe struggle to break through just yet. There could be a lot of short sellers brought into the market here, but we may see another push back up to the upside. It is quite choppy, as you can see with these triangle sort of formations drawn on, with these trend lines coming from all angles. That just explains that the price is getting quite choppy. While we are still within this, guys, I'm staying away from GBP pairs at the moment. I think we could see a little push down into these levels, but there is still a good possibility that from these levels down here that we see another push back up to the upside before that bigger push down. So yeah, like last Sniper Sundays, pound pairs are quite choppy, so keeping an eye on them, but yeah, just watching out for them at the moment, and I will update. Same with GBP JPY. So with this pair now, I'll just get rid of this for a second. I was watching for, I explained on Thursday that we were watching for how price reacted around here. Even on Friday's morning call, I was watching for how we react around here, watching for rejection so we could take a short trade. However, we rejected so quickly and so sharply, it didn't give us an opportunity to take a short trade. We had a big bearish move on the back of the retail sales. And once we were down here, as I said, I don't want to jump on a moving train. So what we see here was we had a breakout of this trend line. We pushed up, down, double top, bringing in short sellers. A lot of retail traders would have taken a short here. As I explained, we were still going to go higher, and we did. And what we can see here coming across on the inside here is also an inner trend line on the 4 hour. We're attempting to break that at the moment, but again, with GBP pairs, there's various supports coming in, and it's getting quite choppy. We are still in this range as well, so I'm not looking to jump into this trade just yet. I do like short on pound pairs overall, but I'm just waiting for the right time to take that. We could push back up one more time and then see another push back down, or we may see this push down towards this outer trend line here, which also comes in confluence with this range and the weekly support of 142. And then from there, we might see a little push back up to the upside and then a roll over. So keeping an eye on all these sort of variations next week. USD JPY, an interesting one. So on a daily inner trend line, we've broken above here, and we've hit that monthly resistance of 110. We've been calling that we'd hit that for quite some time. On the that's on the weekly chart. Sorry, on the 4 hour as well. What I also called on USD JPY was last week that this wasn't going to be the place to take a short trade. That we were going to push up higher, and we did. In fact, we did do that. So here we're in. We just come above. Remember last Sniper Sundays, I kind of gave examples of what happens when we come to these monthly key levels. Like here, we'll push through, bring in long buyers, and then we come back down. Especially same again when we're coming down short. See, we broke through. We don't hit the level exactly. We break through, have a doji candle, then we push back up. So we don't always just tap the level to the exact point. Sometimes we break through. There's loads of examples. So here we've broken through slightly, but we don't always just hit it exactly. We can price can often break through to try and make price look like it's about to go higher, and then we roll over to the downside. Here we broke through. Wasn't enough in it yet to be looking at taking the trade. Then we had a daily break back up. We've had a double top here, and now we have a doji candle. It looks like price may be ready to have a push down. Now, something interesting I saw on USD JPY. Remember, I've been looking at Japanese yen pairs for a push down. That's why we took Aussie dollar, Japanese yen. What's quite interesting on here is we've just hit this really strong weekly trend line on USD JPY as well. 0.1, 0.2, and we've now just had 0.3. We're just rejecting that. As always, I expect a bit more than just one rejection on any trend line of more than one candle. So dropping down to the daily, I'm going to be watching this and seeing how this reacts around here. I think we could have one more drive to the upside. So we've had this 4 hour move. We've had this one drive. We've had this second drive. I think we could come down, possibly within a cause of range between here. And then what I'm going to be looking out for is a third drive to the upside. And if we get a drive up here, then I'm going to be looking at taking a short trade on this, I think. And keeping a close eye on it. Obviously can't call it just yet. We can see here, really nice doji candle on the daily, showing that price is indecisive and slowing down. So what we're watching for is the daily candle tomorrow, and how we react around this trend line, how we react around the top of this range, and how we're reacting around this monthly resistance. With Japanese yen, if USD JPY sells off, then we could see a bigger sell-off on the other Japanese yen pairs as well. USD CAD, a pair that's really done nothing most of last week. Daily here you can see. So we had a long trade on this 2 weeks ago. Unfortunately, because of the war news that came out, we did take profit early. But not a bad thing, because even though we took profit early, this did push on and up to make another 2 or 3%. We can see here it would have been just stuck here all of last week, just moving sideways. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 candles, daily candles just moving sideways. However, morning star formation sort of forming here off the bottom of this range, of this bottom of support. Looks like we could take off. Now, what I'm expecting to see, or what I wanted to see from USD CAD, was a bigger pullback on the Fibonacci. To come back down, you can see we're sort of flirting with the 50% retracement. I haven't actually tapped it, which leads me to think that I do think there's another push to the downside on this just yet. I would like to see this tap this 61.8%, and then I think we're going to see a nicer move to the upside. So I think we could see a push down on the Canadian dollar pair first, and then a push up, and from here would be an ideal place to look at taking a long trade. So hopefully we can see that. Hopefully we can see that pushed back down, and that we can have a second chance on taking this. So you can see we've broken out slightly of this trend line, sort of a doji candle, tweezer top. Price is sort of failing, especially on this sort of counter trend here, as you can see. Price is sort of failing, so I'm expecting this to hopefully continue with this weakness, push down, come into these levels, could probably bring short sellers into the market, but this is the area where we're going to be looking at taking a very, very nice long trade all the way back up. But that all depends on how the US dollar is going to behave when it opens. But we'll get to US dollar in a minute. USD Swiss pair I've been watching for quite some time, watching this drop off and drop off and drop off and waiting for the right time to look at a long trade. It looks a little bit confusing here at the moment, so let me just clear it up. Called this area for quite some time and explained to watch price around this level. So we had support, had a bit of a push up, then we came back down. At the moment here, what we can see is we do have this level of support. Let me just go to the weekly chart. We've got this really strong weekly support level. So we've got 0.1, 0.2 on the trend line. We broke through on the third touch, but we've come down now to the second point. Very strong. You can see the big rejection we've had here on the weekly candle. Came back down on the weekly candle again, big rejection. Doji candle, and then the third week, push back down and then push back up. Strong rejection of this support level. Daily, we've got this morning star formation. 1, 2, 3. Not the strongest at the end of the day, but nevertheless, it's a reversal sign. Drop down to the 4 hour. I was looking for us to take a trade from this level last week. Remember on Friday, I sort of had this level highlighted, had this left shoulder, head. We were at this level, wanted to pull back into this level to take that long. Didn't have it. Balls are too strong, broke out to the upside. However, on a bigger picture here, just zoom out on the 4 hour. Remember, we always want to make sure price retests that support level to confirm it's as support, and then we can look at it taking a trade. So we know this blue line here is a support. Also, this level is also a support. So if we see price, I'm watching this one carefully. This is one of my favorites actually, guys. We'll be watching for. USD Swiss is to see this pullback, similar to Euro USD, where I'm looking for a pullback up higher first. USD Swiss, I'm looking for a pullback into this level, find support there, then bang, we're going to be looking for our sniper trade, and I think we've got some good upside potential on this. Aussie dollar, US dollar, tricky one that played out as per my analysis again. Looking for a short trade from this level here, pinged off it, didn't give us a chance to take the short trade. Then the daily on Friday, daily candle bearish, followed through and pushed this down, which was great because that's exactly what I was looking for on Aussie dollar, US dollar, and what I was looking for on Aussie dollar, Japanese yen. I showed the two in the group and explained where I was looking for taking short trades. Like on this pair here, we took that short trade, and I was looking to take a short trade on Aussie dollar, US dollar. But as I said, it pinged off it, didn't give us a chance to really take the entry that I wanted with the confirmation. However, we did push down. Now, Aussie dollar, US dollar, we are coming into a level of support. 0.6875 and the third touch of this inner trend line. This is going to be interesting to see how price reacts when the market opens. We do have Aussie dollar news towards the end of the week, retail sales coming out and so on, or employment data. So it's going to be interesting. I do think that Aussie dollar is going to come out to here, regardless of what happens at the beginning. We may see a little pullback up here, but I do still see us ending up and touching this outer trend line. I do see price coming out and fulfilling this outer trend line here, as you can see on the daily. And as I explained a few times before, once we get to that level, I will be looking at a possible very, very nice long trade. But we're keeping an eye on that one at the moment. Nice daily bearish candle, so we may see this just follow through tomorrow, which I would prefer. I would prefer not to see this little bounce, but we have to expect it as there is a bit of support here. Two confidence of support, trendline support, weekly support. So we may see a little bit of a retracement, a little bit of a bounce there. But ideally, I would like to see this continue down. Now, why is that? The reason being is because of Aussie dollar, Japanese yen. Aussie dollar, Japanese yen is a pair that we're in and that we took a trade on. Really nice. Sorry guys, I just had to sort out my laptop charger. Really nice daily candle here. So I'm just going to run over why we took this trade on Friday. I'm going to delete everything and just show you how simple sometimes it can be. So weekly, we are in a nice uptrend here. So we've formed the bottom, pushed up, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. Then we see a bearish engulfing, a possible sign of things changing. bearish engulfing, push down, but then we had a bullish push back up. That's on a weekly, but then we drop down to the daily. We can see here that we pull on across our daily trend line. We can see that we had 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, broke through, price didn't manage to sustain, so we pushed back up. However, last night for Sundays, I explained that we'd be looking out for this level here. So we're coming, remember we've had this big push down. So remember, we're always looking for the third test. So just keeping an eye on price action. We can see we've had this really nice, strong push down, and price is now pushing back up. So it's going to come back up and do what? It's going to come back up and retest the resistance level, which it just previously failed from. So here we can see we have this resistance level here, and explained that I was looking at this daily sort of head and shoulders formation. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder. Now, watching this carefully last week, we took a nice short trade on this. We actually were about 30 pips in profit around these levels, and it pulled back up, and we came out at break even. Then we had, I explained, when that did happen, just like on Euro JPY, when we had the push down, I think to these levels, we were 30-40 pips in profit, and we pushed back up. It showed that the bulls are still in control. So what do we see? What do we normally see if we're going to see a reversal? We see price spike above the previous high. So therefore, I explained on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday's calls, I was expecting price to pull up into this region and take out this previous high. And then if we saw the momentum come in, then we could look at taking a trade. We did see that happen. We pushed up here. We didn't take the trade here straight away because we didn't want to jump into it. We knew there'd be more than one opportunity of taking a trade, but we did push up and take out the previous high. And remember, we took a short trade here and we're 30 pips in profit. We came out at break even, came out, tried to take stop losses, came for a stop run above the previous high here. Let me just move this more central. Above the previous high here, took out stop losses, and then we see a doji candle and a bearish engulfing. Also, these three candles, 1, 2, 3, evening star formation, showing that reversal. So we've now had a stop run, took out the previous highs, and showing it a reversal sign. Now, we don't want to jump into this too soon, and therefore we're waiting for that third pullback. Now, what do you see here? Which I said we've had the pullback. We've seen 1, 2, 3, even star formation is a confluence. We know on the higher time frame, it's the right, we're rejecting the right shoulder on the daily. That's the second confluence. A third confluence, if I just move this out of the way, is yet another head and shoulders formation. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder. We came back up to the right shoulder, rejected it, and then started showing the signs for taking a short. So when we started showing a rejection, that was the third. Then if we add our Fibonacci, A, B, came up, C retracement, tapped to 78, couldn't break break above and close above, and then if we dropped down to the lower time frames, we started seeing. So this was, I think, our fourth confluence. Then we started seeing all the other confluences on the lower time frame. Came down, pushed up here, and this is where we took the trade. We saw this doji candle ping off this resistance, ping off the 78% retracement level. Then we had this doji candle, and then bang, we had this bearish engulfing. Now it was actually, so the 1 hour bearish engulfing was another confluence. It was actually on the 30-minute where we took it. This 30-minute candle engulfed. Then we had a little pullback up where we could get our entry. It was after this bearish engulfing here. After this bearish engulfing candle here. So we had that pullback up, had a little retest once more. Once the bears came back in, it was like, okay, we're in control now. We're engulfing that little pullback. We're in control. We've had all of these retests. We've had all of these tests of resistance. Price tried to push up one more time. Big bearish engulfing. It was time to sell. We took the short here. We took the short here. And then we haven't looked back ever since. I think we're at 35. Friday, it was a Friday, so I gave a wider stop loss. Normally we could have kept that a little bit tighter, but Friday can be strange in the market sometimes. And we pushed down and we haven't looked back since. So we're running at 1% on this. And as I said, Aussie dollar, Aussie dollar, US dollar, I would like to see that continue the Aussie dollar to continue to weaken so that we can see Aussie dollar, Japanese yen continue to weaken as well. Now, when I first had this, went to this chart, you would have seen some drawings, some markings that I had on. So what I can see here, guys, is there is a possibility. But obviously here we've got higher high, higher low, higher high. We may be creating a higher low. This level is going to be important. I think on market open, like the other pairs as I mentioned, I think Euro JPY and USD JPY, I think we may see this continue to push a little bit lower, and then from here we may see a retracement. So what we may do is actually take some profit here, unless we see a big push down, and therefore we may just then see a retracement to this support level, which would be ideal. But we may see price come down and test this sort of support level, maybe then pull back up, and we might see a retracement to again fulfill the sort of left shoulder, head, and maybe another right shoulder. Ideally, as I said, we can see this continue pushing down, and there's a possibility this could push up. So if we find support here, we may take profit or some profit, and then when it retraces back up, look at taking a short trade once again, so we don't lose out on the retracement. So keeping an eye on this one. We are still short on this one, running 1% profit on this one. So I will update and we'll see what this does on market open. But on the daily, it looks beautiful. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder, shooting star, bearish engulfing. That is the sign of a market reversal, if there ever was one. Now it's a beautiful, very strong bearish engulfing. So unless something silly happens over the weekend or market open, this should continue down lower, and I'm happy to hold this. I believe that this pair could come all the way down back into these regions here. So we could have a good nice 200-300 a couple of hundred pips on this back into this level. So it's just whether what it's going to do when the market opens. But if we can clear this level of support here, come back, retest that as resistance, then this pair is going to decline, and it's going to decline fast. New Zealand dollar, US dollar. If we think back a couple of weeks ago when we were trading below 0.6700, I highlighted this range, explaining that price would break above this level and tap into the zone. Now, you know what I was just showing you on USD JPY about how price will break above the monthly resistance first, and it won't always just tap it. See how we broke lower here, we may break higher before reversing. This is a good example. See here on the daily how we broke above first, evening star formation. Those three candlesticks, 1, 2, 3, even star formation, then we broke down. Now we didn't get a chance to take a short here, but what we've been waiting for is a retest of this 0.6700 ever since, and it hasn't been coming. Every time the bulls push up, the bears step in. So at the moment, this is sort of in, it's a hard one to call on NZD USD. Bears are in control at the moment, as you can see here on the daily. We had a push up, but bearish engulfing, so it does look like we can push back down. But we do have this level of support that we're playing around with, and we're struggling to break through. You see here resistance, 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 support, 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 support. So I'm watching this one at the moment, guys. No sort of bias on this as yet. If Aussie dollar weakens like we want it to do, then New Zealand dollar is more than likely going to copy it. I do think that the bears are in control. I would like to see a push up into this level to take a short trade, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think that the bears are in control and can see us pulling down. And just like on Aussie dollar, US dollar, I see us coming down. Sorry. Just like Aussie dollar, US dollar, I do see this coming down to take out this touch on the trend line. So I do see this coming down. We can see here, market structure. From the high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, equal lower high. See there? Equal lower high. Now set to come down and take out this level here to make a new lower low, and come down and take out this trend line and tap that trend line. NZD CAD, interesting one as well. As I mentioned earlier, New Zealand dollar has been very, very choppy over the past few weeks. You can see here, big range, sort of consolidation zone on the daily. Market doesn't know where it wants to go next. Very, very choppy. What I was looking at this was to come up and tap this right shoulder, left shoulder, head, right shoulder, tap this sort of region around here before rolling over to the downside, but it's been very, very choppy here. Now I'm going to stand aside on this. As I said, I do think that the New Zealand dollar bears are in control. So if this pulls, the NZD USD pulls down, we'll more than likely see NZD Canadian dollar pull down as well. However, I will be watching it around this level. We can see here we do have a strong level of support coming through. If we find support around here, third touch on this little trend line, third touch on this, or fourth touch on this support, there is still a chance that we may see a big push up to the upside. But at the moment, stand aside and just wait for this pair to make a move and develop and show us something around the bottom of this range before we look at taking a trade. Last thing I'm looking at here, guys, is oil. Sorry, not oil, gold. So gold, again, I called this last week and said that gold was not short yet. Gold is going to push up higher. That was from down at these levels. Spain, we needed to push up higher, because if gold is going to go down, which I think it is going to go down soon, I'm watching this very, 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 very carefully, because the bears are do look like they're going to come in and step in and take this down. However, technically, we need to form a retracement. We've come down, made a low. We haven't made a 38% retracement level yet. We've got low, low, lower high, lower low. We may make a lower high, but there's nothing stopping this gold actually breaking higher and sort of tapping the 61.8% retracement level, or even more. But I do think that we're going to come up and tap this sort of large previous lower high level here, and then possibly tap this 38.2% retracement level before rolling over. We saw on Friday that the bears started to step in here slightly, but I see this coming up a little bit higher. I see gold still coming up higher. I do see a short coming on gold soon, guys, and I'm watching it very, very closely. But we haven't fulfilled that retracement level yet, so we need to at least hit this 38. Hopefully, come up and hit this 50 or 60, and because this will push the Japanese yen pairs down even further. And from here, I think there's a big, big short coming on, as I mentioned again on the first Sniper Sundays. But at the moment, it does look semi-bearish around at these levels at the moment. As you saw this little sort of bearishness come in here on Friday. See this double top resistance, shooting stars, bearish engulfing. However, we do have this little trend line coming across. So if we can continue to trade above this counter trend line, I see this edging higher, and edging higher to come up higher before a bigger rollover to the downside. So keeping a close eye on that one. But watching this very, very carefully, and we'll update if we have a trade on gold this week. But back to oil, see what happens on market open. Very, very interested in what's going to happen. Cut on the output of oil should see a push higher. So I'm very, very interested to see what happens on market open. Nothing may happen, we'll have to see. But price action shows that there's a reversal on here. Daily, morning star formation, third touch of the trend line, 4 hour inverse head and shoulders, bullish engulfing candles. It does look like that this is ready to have a nice push up to the upside. So keeping an eye out for this one. Interesting market open. That's it for tonight, guys. They're the main pairs we're going to be looking at this week. There is variations on those pairs that I'll be looking at and seeing if there's any other trades. But they're sort of the major ones. Keeping a close eye on those. Keeping a close eye on gold this week, and oil when the market opens. And we'll see what happens there. So I'm going to be in touch when the market opens, just to update to see if there has been any movement. Hope you've taken it all in. Hope you've been looking at the previous Sniper Sundays as mentioned, and the morning and evening calls, and then looking at how the analysis plays out to use as education and to learn. Looking forward to tomorrow. It is a bank holiday in the US, so the market could be quiet. But let's see what the market gives us on market open in a few hours. Speak to you soon, guys. Have a great evening, and we'll update on the market open. And if there's nothing too major, then we'll be catching up again on morning call. Thank you.